Imagine it starts like this: one ordinary moment, nothing dramatic, just a conversation, a text, a silence, and your heart doesn't leap the way it once did. No thunder. No break. Just a pause. A tiny, almost polite delay where feeling used to rush in instantly. You notice it immediately, because you always notice. Where there was once instant warmth, now there's a breath, a watching. You're still there, listening, present, but something didn't move, and that stillness feels foreign. At first you dismiss it. Tiredness, a rough week. But it returns, quietly, reliably, sometimes as flatness, sometimes as distance, sometimes simply as the absence of a reaction you fully expected from yourself. What unsettles you most? You're not numb. You're not gone. You still care, maybe too much, yet the caring no longer spills outward automatically. It arrives, then stays. Contained. People around you don't catch it right away. You're still kind, still responsive, still smiling at the right times. But inside, the texture has changed. Things no longer pass straight through you. They land, they stop. And you wonder, when did that begin? You search for the moment, a fight, a betrayal, a clear wound, but there isn't one. Just countless small ones. Comments that lingered too long. Silences that echoed louder than words. Moments you absorbed without protest. Nothing big enough to name. Yet together, they added up to a shift no one announced. If someone asked what's wrong, you'd have no neat answer. Nothing is wrong. Exactly. Life flows on. Conversations flow on. Relationships continue. But something you used to give freely, reassurance before it was asked, automatic smoothing of tension, instinctive bridging, you now withhold without deciding to. It simply doesn't occur to you anymore. There's a new quiet distance as you watch yourself respond. Not dissociation. Not numbness. More like deliberate containment. As if something inside quietly decided, hold this one. Don't release yet. Others start calling it colder, more reserved, less expressive, less warm. But those labels miss the truth entirely. Cold implies no feeling. Reserved implies conscious choice. This feels like an unannounced recalibration, your system updating itself in silence. You still feel everything. Deeply, sometimes painfully deeply, but you no longer rush toward those feelings. You let them sit, and in that sitting, everything changes. Closeness used to feel natural, effortless, almost automatic. Now it requires something extra: time, proven safety, real consistency. Even then, there's a soft hesitation, not fear, just clear-eyed assessment. You begin seeing things once absorbed without question, how quickly others expect full access, how easily they assume you'll carry their emotional weight, how often they lean without ever checking if you're steady. Before, those things slid past unnoticed, or maybe you noticed but didn't register the cost. Now you do. And once seen, you can't unsee. People say repeated pain hardens you, closes your heart, builds walls. But this doesn't feel like hardening or walls. It feels like compression. Like something that used to spill outward constantly is now being held inward, not locked away, simply conserved. Your reactions grow smaller, but sharper, more precise. Fewer words, longer silences, you listen far longer than you speak. You observe more than you engage. And strangely, this new way doesn't feel heavy or punishing. It feels stable, almost peaceful. That stability confuses you at first. If this were damage, wouldn't it hurt more? If this were shut down, wouldn't it feel empty? But it doesn't. It feels controlled, intentional, even though you never consciously chose it. Another quiet shift you can't ignore. You no longer feel the urgent need to explain yourself. Misunderstanding used to feel dangerous, almost urgent to correct. Now, tolerable. You let people misread you. Let assumptions stand uncorrected, not to punish, simply because fixing them no longer feels necessary. That change unsettles others. They sense it. They test old buttons, repeat familiar patterns, waiting for the old flood of response. When it doesn't come, they grow uneasy. You remain calm, not triumphant, not detached, just unmoved. And that's when the deeper question forms. If this isn't closure, if this isn't distance, if this isn't coldness, what exactly is it? It came from repetition. From being asked, again and again, to give more than was ever returned, until the giving quietly, organically changed on its own. No announcement. No ceremony. One day the reflex simply didn't fire. You stopped bracing the way you once did. That constant quiet readiness to absorb, adjust, make space no longer runs on autopilot. Now, before you move towards someone emotionally, something checks in first. Not fear, not calculation, recognition. You spot patterns faster. Sense when an exchange takes more than it offers. Feel when closeness arrives without genuine care. And instead of overriding that sensation like before, you honor the pause. Others misread the pause as withdrawal, as shutdown, as proof repeated hurt finally closed you off. But nothing is closed. Something beautifully reorganized. What looks like distance is actually a quiet refusal to dissolve yourself. What feels like coldness is careful compression. What appears to be withdrawal is simply the end of automatic self-exposure. Here's the truth no one says out loud. Repeated hurt doesn't make an empath numb. It teaches them discernment without needing words. The body learns what the mind long tried to ignore. That endless openness without reciprocity isn't true connection. That empathy without protection isn't sustainable kindness. That constant availability slowly erodes something essential. So the system adapts before the story catches up. It stops offering everything at once, stops leaning forward reflexively, stops translating every silence into personal responsibility. This adaptation doesn't feel heroic in the moment. It feels neutral. But neutrality is its own power, because you're no longer pulled by every emotional current in the room. You still notice everything. You still feel deeply. You just don't give it all away immediately. That's the shift. And it changes how you relate in ways you can't fully explain to others. You no longer chase clarity at your own expense. No longer repair misunderstandings that aren't yours to fix. No longer rush to reassure someone who hasn't shown real care. You allow things to reveal themselves over time. Some people sense the change and lean closer, slowing down, meeting you where you now are. Others grow uncomfortable without your old boundless responsiveness. They miss the ease of your emotional labor. They don't know how to reach you without it, so they label you different now, harder, less warm. But warmth was never the problem. Unlimited, unprotected access was. Repeated hurt taught you something no conversation ever could. Being endlessly reachable isn't the same as being safe. Giving without limit doesn't guarantee understanding or reciprocity. Staying open at all costs can eventually cost you yourself. So something inside learned to close the door gently, not slam it, not lock it, just enough to finally breathe. This is the part no one talks about. When an empath is hurt repeatedly, they don't become distant from others first. They become closer to themselves. They start noticing when something feels off before it turns into deep pain. They trust the pause. They let silence do some of the work. And once that happens, they can't go back to the old way, the way that required them to disappear quietly so others could stay comfortable. This new way doesn't ask permission. It doesn't announce itself, it simply remains. You're still capable of profound, deep connection. But now it has a threshold, it has pacing. It has lived conditions, not rigid rules, but quiet boundaries shaped by experience. From the outside it may resemble emotional detachment. From the inside it feels like coherence. Like finally staying whole. And here's the unresolved truth that lingers. Repeated hurt didn't make you less sensitive. It made your sensitivity private. It taught you that not everything you feel needs immediate sharing. That not everyone earns access to your depths. That restraint can be the deepest form of self-respect. Once that lesson fully settles, your reactions will never look the same again. Not because you're broken or bitter, but because something inside you decided, quietly and without fanfare, to remain intact. And if someone notices you no longer respond the way you once did, if they feel the absence of your old boundless availability, if they sense something has shifted, they're right. Something did. But it isn't what they think. It's the quiet, powerful sound of someone who learned, slowly and repeatedly, that staying open without protection isn't love. One chose, finally, to remain whole instead.